I can hear you just fine. I see the main streams back up. I still have not gotten the commentary stream, but I have the streams loaded separately. Alright, thank you. Alright. Yep, I've got it. So unfortunately, we did miss a little bit of action on Chase's side. However, MLSTRM is about where we left off, so I'll just go ahead and describe infinite speed. So once MLSTRM defeats this boss, he will go into the corner and he will basically make a setup and then morph. And what he'll do is he will hold a specific direction on the control stick for, I think, about 50 seconds. And as he is doing this, his speed in the game will gradually rise until it gets to absurd values. So once this happens, eventually his outer shell of his morph ball will completely disappear. And what effects this has is whenever he runs into a wall, it kind of places him in multiple locations in each room at the same time. So sometimes this allows him to get power-ups that he technically cannot access yet. So what he will do for here is getting Artifact of Sun early, because by boosting in the tunnel, he will actually hit a wall, and the game will think that he is at Artifacts of Sun location. So because that does not have any kind of relocation or anything, he will be able to get Artifact of Sun early and not have to worry about getting out or anything. So that saves time by preventing him from having to backtrack to this location later on. Chase is busy doing a little bit of cleanup here. In about a minute or so, he will be going into Magma Pool and he will be setting up a second infinite speed in order to get a Power Bomb expansion early. This will allow him to get X-Ray early because that is blocked by rubble that you can only Power Bomb. That also allows him to do single trip mines. And you can see MLSTRM loses his outer shell here, so he'll be able to boost right up here in order to get Artifact of Sun early. And he gets it. Chase just about to set up the second infinite speed of the run, the second and final one. Oh, he is holding, I believe, down left here. Without these setups, sometimes it can be difficult to get a specific location where you have to hold directly into the groove. However, with these setups, it is pretty easy to hold into the groove. For example, if you do the earlier infinite speed that MLSTRM did a little bit earlier, if you don't look in a specific direction, sometimes it can be off of the groove and it can be harder for him to hold for like 50 seconds or however. Because if you actually change the direction that you're holding too significantly, it can make the setup much longer because you end up losing speed. and Chase gets the powerbomb right here. There is a trick in the next room. If you have a fixed camera, normally if you unmorph, you will get light show. However, if you unmorph here, you will get light show, but if you morph back, then you will cancel light show and you'll fix your camera. And now Chase does not have, I guess, infinite speed in the game, so he is able to boost and not have the normal effects. However, he still has the property where if he unmorphs, he'll get light show, so he needs to use that save station that I was talking about earlier. That's why he shot the missile lock earlier, so that he can go to the save station and cancel out the effects of infinite speed. Also, right here in Gathering Hall is where you would do IBBFAF. That is a trick to get out of bounds and wall crawl around this door and skip the puzzle. However, since he did the puzzle, he does not need to do this, and he can instead do this section of the run inbounds. MLSTRM opting to go around the lava pool instead of boosting through it. It's probably for energy management reasons. Although he's really not going to take a whole lot of damage in between now and the save station, so that boost really isn't that risky. Normally it takes somewhere between 30 and 40 HP to do. And you'll see Chase here fighting the Chozo Ghost. If you actually go out of bounds, there is another trick called Ghost Skip that accompanies IBBF-AF. If you go out of bounds, there is a trigger in this room. It's a ginormous trigger. It covers most of the room, but there's a certain section, if you use the upper entrance to the room, that you can carefully navigate around and skip this. However, since he's going inbounds, there really isn't any way to skip this trigger. So that's about another 20-second time save if you're doing the out of bounds here. Chase now heading towards Reflecting Pool. He'll actually take the elevator to Talon, and he will get X-Ray with that power bomb that he got using infinite speed. A little bit of a tricky jump here allows Chase to skip the spider ball track here. And he uses the power bomb that he obtained earlier in order to be able to get into Life Grove Tunnel. Looks like he's opting not to get the missile expansion here, which is interesting because he is going to need those missiles later in Phazon Mines. So Chase has a sizable lead here, but really it's going to come down to lower mines, because in lower mines there's a lot of things that you could lose a lot of time on, especially things like Omega Pirate. If you fail the one cycle there, that can cost minutes. So we will see what happens later on in the run. Maelstrom getting his powerbomb expansion. He's a few minutes behind, but if Chase makes major mistakes, then he can still catch up. Maelstrom opting not to do the camera fix here, which means that he will not be able to boost through these. Chase now heading back through Chozo Ruins. He is going to go back through Talon Overworld, make a ship save, and then he will be heading towards Plasma Beam. So that ship save is important because not only does he refill health, he will also refill his power bomb. And then also he will be refilling his missiles, which is important for missile management later. Maelstrom getting an extra E-tank here. Probably a safe bet. Maelstrom is actually doing the BSJ method in order to skip the spider ball track here. There's actually like 3 different methods here. You can actually clip into the spider ball track. You can do the BSJ as you saw him doing, or there is a ghetto jump somewhere on the left side. I'm not actually sure exactly where it is, but there's a bunch of different ways to skip that spider ball track. This Chase does actually have 30 missiles here, so he should be fine in terms of missile management. Chase entering Twin Fire tunnels here. This dash is a little bit tricky because if you are right up against the wall, it will not allow you to dash very well. So he needs to make sure that he's a little bit off the wall. It looks like he spent a little bit of extra time to make sure of that fact, and he got the dash off just fine. There's actually a neat strat in this room. He can dash off a puffer in the other room. Now, an interesting tidbit about enemies in rooms that you are not in is those enemies still exist, and you can keep a lock on as long as the room is loaded. As soon as you unload the room, the enemies unload with it, and you will lose your lock. So some very well-placed jumps here. A ghetto jump here will allow you to get on top of the spider-wheel track and skip the entire thing. Pretty much everywhere except for one spider-ball track in Vendrana and Shorelines is skippable. So there really isn't anywhere except for that one place that you need spider-ball, and that's only for 100%. So any percent run that you'll see pretty much is going to skip spider ball unless it's for convenience, like these two runners are doing. The real convenience of skipping spider ball is for a trick later on called shafts that will point out. If you do not have spider ball, there's 2 shafts in deep mines, and there's a BSJ in the first shaft that's really difficult, and then in the second shaft there is a very precise jump onto a small rock that's also quite difficult. And you'll hear different runners say that shaft 1's more difficult or shaft 2's more difficult, but frankly they're both pretty difficult. So that's the reason why you'll see both of these runners get spider balls, because getting spider ball is much easier and it is a good newer player route. So if any of you are looking at running Metroid Prime potentially, it is worth checking out the resources at Metroid2002.com. And also you should check out Remy's beginner guide tutorial. And I have been making sure that all of the guides at speedrun.com, the Metroid Prime page, have been up to date, so you can also check that out. So right here, Chase is doing a little bit of backtracking in Vendrana in order to get 2 artifacts, and I believe he will also go for a power bomb expansion because he will be fighting Thardus, and it saves a little bit of time. So we'll go ahead and see if he does that. Yes, he looks like he is going for the power bomb expansion. There's like 3 ways to get up here. There is a ghetto jump, which is difficult. There is a not too precise jump that you just saw him do, and then you can also do an R jump. Unfortunately, he can't use grapple beam to get onto the glider here because he does not have it because he's not gone to mines yet. Yes, we have plenty of joke names for Ghetto Jump: Low Income Leap, Destitute Dive, Trump Jump, Bernie Hop, I guess Hillary Hop, Bernie Bump. It's just kind of an inside joke that Metroid Prime runners have. So as you'll see here, Chase is not doing the thermal puzzle right now. The reason is, if he does that, then he also has to do the conduit at the top of the room. It's a little puzzle there. So if he does that on the way back, it's actually a little bit faster because he does not have to travel all the way to the top there. And he's also getting an extra E-tank here for safety. So there's another artifact that he'll need to complete the game a little bit later on. Oh no. So, also, there is a pirate here, we'd like to call him Calvin. Or wait, no. His name is Edward, sorry. But anyway, Edward randomly likes to break the glass or not break the glass, so if you move a certain way, he'll break the glass. But I guess if you're not like fast enough to get over to where he needs to be, then he won't break the glass. You'll have to reload the room like Chase had to do. Damn you, Edward. You'll also see Chase do a little skip here. Normally you would require Plasma Beam, but he actually turns out you can actually jump over the barrier here and just shoot that tower directly. Saves a little bit of time because you don't have to melt the ice in the tower with Plasma Beam. So you'll see Chase here get thermal visor since it is on his way, and he'll be able to go through the ice door here, saving a little bit of time. And here's another item that really isn't required. We actually do not get it in low percent. However, it does save quite a bit of chunk on the last boss of the game, Metroid Prime's Essence form. So we do get it since it saves that little bit of time. Also makes the fight a lot more manageable. Looks like Maelstrom's having a little bit of trouble with the ghetto jump here. This is a pretty precise ghetto jump for new runners, and you basically have to jump up and then kind of fall onto the little spider ball piece here. So it's not too surprising that he's having trouble with that jump, because that is not the easiest jump in the world. So here you see Chase fight with Thardus. Thardus actually has a couple of tricks you won't see in casual play. First off, we have Plasma Beam, which does much more damage than either Wave or Power. Second off, he does have a power bomb, so I don't know if he actually has 2 power bombs or 1 at this point, but if he does have 2, he can actually completely just end the last part of the boss. And then also, if you roll into ball form and then you lay bombs in front of Thardus as he's morphing, like this, you will actually expose his Phazon core without really having to shoot him at all. I don't know why this happens, but you don't actually need to hit him with the bombs, you just need to lay them down. Oh, it's a little bit of a weird thing. He's doing some cool scan dashes while he waits on this form. There really isn't any way to skip it. You'll see here he's using a fully charged plasma shot and then a missile. This is the quickest way to get through any of the phases. However, sometimes it can be difficult to land that missile because Thardus loves to block your shots. Just point out that Metroid rocks. And he will quickly finish off the last part of the fight by using a power bomb. He does need to save 1 here for a tunnel in Magmore in order to be able to enter mines, but he does have the spare, so he will use it here. So Chase just ending his Findrana cleanup already over here, opting to get Spider Ball. Maelstrom's probably in maybe about halfway into Findrana cleanup. So he's lagging on behind a little bit, but again, as Chase enters lower mines right here, there are a lot of places where he can lose a lot of time. And this tunnel right here is where he has to save his power bomb. So he power bombs that, and this enemy right here, the far, what is that enemy called? zoomer, I believe. The far zoomer right there actually has a 100% chance to drop a power bomb, and he will need it in, I believe, 2 rooms. So he uses that guaranteed power bomb drop in order to refill 1 power bomb so that he can get past that room. Here he uses his guaranteed power bomb drop on the rubble in the morph ball tunnel. And here it looks like he's going for a cutscene skip. This is actually an RTA strat. Normally you'll see runners just boost into the cutscene because it really doesn't waste any time. But since this race is going by RTA, it actually saves a little bit of time RTA here in order to skip this cutscene. It looks like he actually fell, so he's going to need to do this again. The reason he's jumping on the very edge there is right beyond that is the trigger for the cutscene. So there's a little bit of place where you can jump up there, but not a whole lot of room, so he has to be careful about that jump that he doesn't go too far in. Here we'll see Chase come up towards Powerbomb Maze. This maze can actually vary. Oh yes, before I explain Powerbomb Maze, I'll explain Elite Pirate AI. So, for any Elite Pirate, including Omega Pirate, you are able to stand like off to the side of him, and his first programmed action is to face you, so if he's never able to face you, he will not do anything except sidestep. So for the Powerbomb Maze here, you can get anywhere between 15 and 55 squares, with the average being about 38, a little bit over. So this is another source of RNG here. Chase getting a 37 square according to Maze Finder, which is a little bit above average, as you can see by the percentage. Again, ideal would be 15 squares, but that's very rare, and the opposite of ideal would be 55 squares, which is also quite rare. Most commonly you'll get like somewhere in the mid to upper 30s. MLSTRM having trouble with the little skip here. Looks like he is potentially going too far to the right instead of forward here. There we go. Looks like he got it. So I can't actually see on the commentary stream how many. Looks like Chase has 18 missiles. There is 2 boxes in Metroid Quarantine A that allow you to get guaranteed missile drops, like right to the right of the scan point, which you use to eliminate the energy barrier. So that's really an easy source of missiles right there. It looks like he did not go for them. Chase entering, just about to enter Fungal Hall A right here. So Bungle Hall A really isn't that difficult a room, but it has Hunter Metroids in it. So we like to hate Hunter Metroids because they're hard to shoot and they can waste a lot of time if they hit you because they can really mess up with your jumps. It looks like MLSTRM is low on health. Thankfully, there is a E-tank right here that he can use to refill it. Chase also needs to be a little bit careful with his health here. He has under 2 E-tanks of health, and next room, if you're not very careful, can do a lot of damage to you. This is Metroid Quarantine B. He's already taken about 50 health of damage, and that could spell disaster for Omega Pirate if he doesn't take the safety save. So, looks like he is playing it safe here. And you'll probably also need to play it safe with the next 2 Plasma Pirates. We like to call those Frederick. Especially the left, I think the left one right here is called Frederick because there is a quick dash here that you can do, and sometimes if he's in the wrong spot, he can mess with that. So I would imagine that Chase is going to go for the safety save here because this is very low on health, and it would be very easy for him to die on Omega Pirate if he does it without taking a safety save. So Chase taking the safety save here, which will prevent him from having very difficult energy management issues on Omega Pirate. Going into Omega Pirate with anything less than like 150 health means that there is a very real potential that you can die on that fight because any of the beam troopers can really ruin your day on this fight. So you'll see that Chase skips the cutscene here. Omega Pirate has the same AI as any of the other Elite Pirates, plus a little bit of other stuff. So that means that you can also do the same AI manipulation here. So you see he will sidestep Omega Pirate here, and that prevents him from really doing anything. Which allows him to quickly skip to the X-ray phase of the fight. And here... didn't look like he did trooper skip. You can actually powerbomb him. There's like a half-second window where he raises his head, and if you powerbomb him at the correct time, he'll actually not summon any troopers. So he got wave troopers here, which is actually kind of bad luck, because if you get the wrong kind of troopers, then sometimes it can really mess with the timing on the plasma shots here. You'll notice he does a fully charged plasma shot, fires one single uncharged plasma shot off so he can charge up another plasma shot, because if he shoots Omega Pirate with an uncharged shot, then he will actually move on to the next pool, making it more difficult for him to one-cycle the boss. So, looks like he got the one cycle, so I don't believe that there is anything else super major that he can lose a lot of time on, so other than final boss RNG. But a very solid fight from Chase. Especially considering the fact that he got bad pirates. So not much to talk about here. Chase is simply going back. He's backtracking in order to get Newborn. There is a trick called Early Newborn, which you'll see 1 or 2 80% runners do. It's a very difficult trick and is very easy to soft lock, so most runners are not going to learn that or even do it in a run. But in Fungal Hall A, you can get out of bounds by using a glider and manipulating it very carefully. And then in Phazon Mining Tunnel, which chases in here, you can actually navigate out of bounds in order to get this artifact. But if you don't position yourself correctly, there's a very, very real chance that you'll soft lock. And we've actually had runners in the 80% tournament soft lock before by trying to do early newborn like this. The Chase burning a power bomb there in order to clear out some Metroids. He's actually really good on power bomb management right here. He also has full missiles, so he will not have any problems later on. If you do use missiles on Omega Pirate, sometimes missile management can be a little bit tricky here. But he did use Plasma Beam, which is a little bit slower, but will potentially save time later on when he goes for Artifact Warrior. So he has plenty of power bombs here, which is important because he will actually need one of those power bombs in order to initiate the Phazon pirate fight. And if you don't have enough, there really isn't a good way to farm one because there's no guaranteed drops or anything nearby. So that can waste a ton of time. Looks like he's getting very lucky on the powerbomb drops. And once again, he goes for Pirate Skip. We'll see if he gets it the second time. And looks like he missed it. So that's exactly where the trigger is and why you need to be careful when you jump. If he did get that jump, that trigger extends a little bit upwards, so you'd have to make a careful jump around it. But since he missed it, he will waste a little bit of in-game time, a little bit more RTA by having to watch a few cutscenes and fight the elite pirate in this room. So in the next room, right after the elevator, first off, like at the elevator, there are 3 boxes which you can use to refill your missiles if you use missiles on Omega Pirate. So we use a power bomb here in order to do this. And then in the next room, it's what we like to call shafts. So these are the rooms that I was talking about earlier that involve a tricky BSJ and a tricky jump onto a rock. But since both runners actually got Spider Ball, he can just use the Spider Ball track in order to get to the top of this room, which is much, much easier. Yeah, I don't remember the exact rooms. Here we go. Here is Charlie. What is his name? Calvin. That is the Power Beam Trooper right here. He also likes to ruin your day. Yeah, unfortunately, I don't have every single transitional room in the game memorized because they're really not that important. It's important here that you actually kill the pirates because if you don't, they like to bump you into the Phazon Pirate's line of sight. And if you are bumped in the line of sight, then it actually triggers the rest of his AI. And that makes the fight much, much slower here. So Chase actually going for the cutscene overlap here. This is a risky move because if you fail the overlap, then you have to do a tricky recovery strat here. So it looks like he's having to do that because he failed to do the cutscene overlap correctly. So this is going to cost him a lot of time, and MLSTRM will have some chance to catch up. He is quite a ways behind, but Chase could have difficulty. It looks like he's actually going to opt to reload the room, it looks like, or go in alternate direction. I'm not really sure what he's trying to do here. So it looks like he's going to reload the room, which will reset where the platforms are. It's probably a safe bet. So up and coming, we have a room called ore processing, which involves a number of jumps in order to skip the spider ball puzzle here. Normally, you would have to bomb all 3 of the bomb slots, which you see right in front of you. But we do a series of jumps. None of them are that bad except for the last one. The last one is pretty tricky because it involves like sliding up onto the track. It was very easy to fall here and waste a lot of time. So Chase finishing out lower mines with quite a solid time despite having problems in, what's that room? I forget what it's called, Elite Research, I think. So pretty much all Chase has left is to get the Artifact of World and then get Artifact of Truth and then fight the final bosses. So not much to speak of right here with the routes that either of these runners are doing. right here, if you did IBBFAF, there's actually another trick called Ghost Skip, which can save 20 seconds, as I mentioned earlier. What you would do is you would bounce on one of the pegs and then carefully jump as to avoid the trigger because it's right below you, and then do a well-timed dash as well as get onto the peg. And that saves about 20 seconds-ish. But since he didn't do the route, he's actually forfeited his chance to do Ghost Skip. As you can see, he got the 3 ghosts here, which does not prevent you from doing anything in the room. MLSTRM also taking the safety save right before Omega Pirate, also a smart move because Omega Pirate can use up a lot of your health if you're not careful. So thankfully it looks like we are going to see finishes from both runners here. Chase making a quick save at the ship, and there are actually a few different strats you can use here. There is a dash directly to the artifact door, or there's also a ghetto jump, but Chase is going to opt for the safe method and instead work his way around the platforms in order to get to the door. And we'll see if Chase decides to write anything on the wall. And he wrote GG on the wall. So thank you for that message. So here Chase is going to fight Ridley, or Meta Ridley, I guess. So this fight has a few tricks to it. You'll see him shoot him with Plasma Beam. This kind of fly around phase is pretty unremarkable, but there is a point during the last part right before he starts to fly around. There is a frame perfect trick called Flyby Skip. If you shoot him on exactly the correct frame, then Ridley will actually land immediately and save a significant chunk of time, but since there's no visual reference for this or anything, it's not really a trick you can do reliably, and you won't see this very often. So when Ridley lands right here, you can actually just boost into him, and for some reason, Ridley's one of the only bosses in the game that is vulnerable to Boost Ball. And Boost Ball does something around 50,000 units of damage. But you'll see Meta Ridley's HP bar is actually quite low, and it will immediately begin the land phase. So Chase switches to Power Beam here because it's quicker to stun him and uses rapid fire missiles to quickly end the phase. And if Meta Ridley decides to dash, there is a snipe that you can do if you manually aim at him. It's difficult to hit, but it's possible to interrupt Ridley's dashes. As you can see right there, he did manage to get one interrupt off. And I couldn't tell right there, but it looked like he got invulnerability glitch, so sometimes, usually when you do 2 dash interrupts, Ridley likes to go completely invulnerable and not take damage. So yeah, Retro is a good fixer of patches. They've patched a bunch of things in the newer games, but that's actually one of the things that they did not patch, unfortunately. So Chase working his way through Impact Crater now. He's just taking the warp. There are a few different ways to climb this room. There's a BSJ, there's a ghetto. There are actually 2 different ghettos. So we'll see which method he uses. Looks like he's going for the quicker ghetto. This ghetto really isn't that bad. But you do have to be a little bit careful jumping on that second branch because it's easy to fall. Chase also opting to use a power bomb. A power bomb will quickly dispatch these fission Metroids. And power bombs are actually quite useful on the last phase essence of Metroid Prime. So, Metroid Prime has 4 subchambers. The first subchamber you'll see here, he will choose either power or wave, and then go to whatever other beam after you've done enough damage. And then the second subchamber, he'll do the same, except he'll also include ice. So 3 separate phases, I guess. And then subchamber 3, he will do the same, except he will randomly choose from all 4 beams. And then subchamber 4, he will do the same, except now he can randomly change without you dealing damage. And he can also dash whenever. And that's really where a lot of the RNG of the fight takes place, because you want him to be either ice or plasma or maximum damage. And if he decides to just stay in wave or power, you can lose minutes on this fight. So MLSTRM taking it very carefully in Phazon Processing Center. In an older route, you actually had to climb this room all the way, and it was very easy to take a lot of damage in this room. However, in the new route, you only have to climb it halfway. So this new route is a lot easier to manage in terms of difficulty, because there are a lot of things that you can just leave out, and it makes the route a lot easier to do, because those difficult tricks are potentially replaced with significantly easier tricks that lose maybe like 30 seconds per trick. Here you can see Maelstrom actually uses a power bomb. This is a good way to refill missiles. So he's actually only has 21 missiles. So for the Phazon Pirate, you need 24 missiles to kill him, so either he's going to have to get lucky and get another missile drop, or he is going to have to finish him off with plasma shots. So we'll see if he manages to get that drop. There isn't really a whole lot of chances other than that one room to get missile drops, so hopefully he does get lucky. Chase right now here, he is about to intercept chamber 4 and let's see what RNG he gets. So immediately starting off with Power Beam. This is not good RNG from Chase's Metroid Prime fight. Like, Power Beam is probably the worst beam that you can get. It's not the lowest damage beam, but Power Beam is also more difficult. So he does, however, switch to Ice, which is, I guess, decent luck so far. He did get Power Beam, but he also switched to Ice. But unfortunately, after the dash, he's also going to switch. Metroid Prime decides to be pretty trolly here with the ice to power switches. Maelstrom opting to take the safer route and scan the terminal after he has finished the other cutscene, so he's not going to have to deal with the platforms not going down like Chase had to. Chase ending his sub-chamber 4 right here. That was pretty decent luck. He got quite a number of plasma and ice phases, so he was able to deal significant damage during those phases, so pretty decent RNG from him. So here he's now fighting Essence. So Essence has a couple of different schools of thoughts. There is the two-pool strat, which once he lays a pool, if you go in and out of that pool, every time you go out of that pool, you actually save a little bit of health from that pool, but you're still able to fire shots, so you effectively extend the health of that pool. If you do this very carefully, it is actually possible to get a two-pool, but some runners also prefer just to do a three-pool strat. So instead of doing the two pools as quickly as you can, instead what the runners will do is they will shoot and they will wait a little bit until Metroid Prime does an attack animation. And this will make it so that he drops the next pool sooner. looks like Chase is going to get a 3 pool. He actually did not do enough damage on the first pool in order for him to be able to do a 2 pool. He will, however, have low enough health so that he can get a pretty comfortable 3 pool. With health this low, he actually does not need to do any of the walking in and out of pools because the 1 pool will do enough damage by itself. Here you'll notice that the power bombs are used to kill Metroids. This is actually a very easy way to kill off, and if you didn't have power bombs, those enemies would be a pain in the butt. So Chase ending the race with a 1:43.04 real time is probably going to end up in probably about a 1:22, 1:23 in-game time. So congrats to Chase for moving up to the next round in the losers brackets. So in the next round, Chase is going to go against the winner of Remy Demi versus Skull 64. MLSTRM just finishing up here. He is also going to be headed towards the final bosses of the game, and we will see how he does on the final bosses. So Chase ending his run with a 119, it looks like. So congratulations to ChasetopherLee for winning this match of the Inter% tournament. So if you like what you see and you want more Metroid Prime content or potentially other games that the runners run, then you can follow them at the links that I have provided in chat. So here's a great example of how in this particular room, if you mess up even a little bit, which is very easy to mess up in this room, these fission Metroids can really ruin your day. Yes, my favorite Metroid Prime meme. Can you imagine if Ice Beam actually hit Metroid Prime? It's actually quite difficult to land an Ice Beam shot on Metroid Prime. Surprisingly so, because the beam projectile speed is quite slow. The Maelstrom actually getting pretty decent luck here. He managed to get the Ice Beam first thing, and it looks like he is sticking to it for now. Actually, looks like he's switching to Wave and then Power. So, not as good. Hopefully he will switch back though. And he is switching back to Wave. Looks like Metroid Prime is being trolly today. And there really isn't anything you can do about which beam he decides to switch to. He did get a Plasma there, so that is good at least. Sometimes you will get Plasma and then troll you by switching back to Power or Wave though. But it does look like he is sticking to it. So Maelstrom getting pretty comparable RNG to Chase. He did get an Ice Phase, a Plasma Phase, and then another Ice Phase, along with a couple of Power and Wave Beam phases, so all in all, not the best, but pretty decent. Maelstrom actually getting a pretty weak first pool there. However, he does need to contend with the cutscene there, so maybe his second and third pools will be better. We will see. So it looks like he did do much better on the second pool, so this... Well, he is not as close to Chase, he can easily get a 3 pool here as well. And Maelstrom ends the race with a 2:01:32 real time. So Maelstrom loses to Chase and is unfortunately knocked out of the tournament. So we do not actually have any current future races scheduled at the minute. However, you should stay tuned because we do have quite a number of races that will be exciting coming up. Just looking at the tournament brackets, probably Jack versus whoever is the winner of Sejoric versus Eagle probably be another interesting match. And as we get closer to finals, we're probably going to have a lot more closer matches. So that will be an exciting watch. MLSTRM finishing with a 136. Now it's worth mentioning that although he did lose, he did finish single segments, so that alone is pretty impressive because it's not the easiest thing to finish a run in Metroid Prime without death, so congratulations to MLSTRM as well. This is Essie. I hope you enjoyed my commentary. I am signing off.